Our series Interviews for Saving America establishes that the world is full of interesting people. Welcome to Saving America. This is your host, Dr. David D. Schein, and we welcome a high visibility podcaster and a published author, Joseph M. Lenard. Mr. Lenard is also known as Joe Lenard Detroit. He is an author, blogger, cancer survivor, constitutionalist, former IT professional, podcaster, political activist, social media influencer, and speaker. He is also the author of Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, a #1 Amazon bestseller, and How to Write a Book and Get It Published. He is the host of the Constitutionalist Politics podcast. He describes himself as born of the 1960s, very much a person of the 1980s. We welcome Joseph M. Lenard for his first appearance on Saving America.
Thank you, David. And if we're relying on Joseph M. Lenard to save America, we're all in trouble.
Well, you and I have talked before, so I know you've got a lot of good ideas. As you know, we follow a 3-question format. And the first question, you make a point of saying you are a lifelong resident of Wyandotte, Michigan, adding by choice. Tell us a little bit about that. I've just caught my attention.
Yeah, my way of starting off kind of the bio aspect. And to be clear, yes, I am Joseph M. Lenard. It looks like French. It's not Lenard. It's actually Polish. It was probably Lenard Waskowicz at some point, but it's Lenard without an O. And I got to throw that middle initial in there because there is an author out of South Carolina, Joseph Lenard. So I've got to make sure I make that spelling distinction and name distinction. But yeah, born and raised in Southeast Michigan, a southern suburb of Detroit. I'm not fond of the winters, of course, but 4 seasons are nice, and by choice, I pretty much choose to stay here, family, friends, and all that. Yeah, I love the Vegas area. I'd love to move to Vegas, but no, by choice, I do stay in the southeastern Michigan area. I was born one city over, basically spent 99.99999% of my life in Wyandotte, and yeah, I'm happy with that. I like our city. It's nice.
Well, we used to have an acronym, BMOC, Big Man on Campus. And I'm guessing that when you're in a smaller town, in contrast to where I am in Houston, Texas, which is a area of about 4 million people, give or take 500,000 or so, it's a lot harder to be the BMOC, right?
That's true. You're like, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond or just one of the minnows in the big lake, right?
Absolutely. Switching to a little bit more serious topic, your book, Constitutionalist Politics, and you have it trademarked. Tell our audience about this unique trademark word and the point of your podcast.
Yeah, I felt called to do more than I've been doing. And I thought, well, I could start a low-key, kind of low-cost podcast, as is my 4th international book is called Podcasting Quick Start Guide. So I could teach you how to do it too. Right? I could teach, by you, I mean anyone out there. You could start a low-key, low-cost, low-scale kind of podcast and see what happens and go with it. I'm in my 2nd season now, but I felt called to do more than what I was. I'm older now. I have health issues, older, slower, poorer. So I have to do more from my couch these days than as a political activist my whole life. could do before, driving a lot of places, going a lot of places, speaking a lot of places. So now I sit my butt on my couch and reach people through the internet. But conservative, whether people either really gravitate or want to run from that word. So I thought I need a new approach. Christitutionalist, Christian based US constitutionalism, right? Reach some of those who may be a little left of center Christians, but we can still talk with one another, even though I am a right of center Christian, together based in the root of the Bible, things that we could come together and agree on. And that's the point and the meaning of my show. Like, it's not, I was born and raised Catholic, right? My grandfather was Lutheran, became Catholic to marry my grandmother on my mother's side, Josephine. But I like to say it's not a Catholic show. It's not a Lutheran show, not a Methodist show, a Baptist show, a yada, yada, yada show. It's Christian overall umbrella, because there are, I lost track of the number of different flavors of Bible there are out there. Jesus didn't do that. God didn't command it. We as humans did that and screwed things up in the process. So, what can all of these 100 different version Bible readers come together and agree on are what Jesus said, and let's focus on those things and apply them to our modern politics.
Fascinating, and I certainly understand that. And by the way, if you swing through Houston, I think you'll pick up another 40 or 50 different religions. I have seen some that pop up and they'll have a sign, and of course, some of them are pretty big. We're home to some pretty large operations here. Thousands of people show up every weekend to hang out with some of these cats.
Yeah, I thought I saw something the other day on Google about the David Schein cult.
Well, they haven't checked in with me yet. As long as there's a royalty associated with it, I'll be glad to discuss it with them.
Yeah, and I go into that on my show, and then my Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You book.
And that is our next question is, so your current book out is called Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You. That's actually the whole title. It's not Terror Strikes. And by the way, the book's coming soon. So how'd you come up with that title, and what is the book about? Why should our audience read it?
Well, as I was going to say, even in a book about terrorism, although I'll go into it's not entirely really about terrorism, much more than that. There's a comic relief chapter, right? We have got to keep our sense of humor. And though, yes, it's Terror Strikes, there's a bazillion books called Terror Strikes. The subtitle makes all the difference. Coming soon to a city near you. And yes, I mean that. Terrorism isn't just a New York 9/11 thing. It can happen anytime, any place. Like LAX was shut down by a terror attack on an electrical grid substation. Shut down LAX for 3 days. There was a train derailed between St. Louis and Chicago. Terrorism. It can happen anytime, any place. But I'm not trying to sell you on fear porn. I just want you awake and alert, not paranoid, right? But I like to say about the book, yes, about terrorism, but not book about death, but life and living. Life over death, hope over fear, faith over despair, love over hate, good over evil, individualism over collectivism, political aspect of the book, freedom over tyranny, family, and friends. So it's way more than terrorism. And if you like baseball, there's some baseball in there too. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So, the terrorism is the thread that ties the historical fiction, #1 Amazon bestseller, together. I also call it faction. Historical fiction's the legal proper literature term, but I like to make up my own terms. I call it faction, part fact, part fiction.
It sounds fascinating. Now, is this set? Is this been triggered because you released it? I think in 2022. Is this based on a lot of the reports that we're hearing? It seems over the last 2 years, which has been since your book was written, talking about all of the gotaways at the southern border and some of the northern border, that there's, Christopher Wray, the current FBI director, is saying we're in more danger now than we were when 9/11 happened.
Hence, coming soon to a city near you. It may not make Newsmax, OAN, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, because it's a localized event and it doesn't get the national news. That doesn't mean terrorism hasn't happened. And it may have happened in your backyard, just everybody else hasn't heard of it. And indeed, yes. And in the book, I go into the very distinction between legal immigration and illegal immigration, the dangers of the latter, and we are a nation of the former.
Now, did you think a lot about the title of your book and the content of your book when the CrowdStrike problem happened about a week ago, and all those places in Europe and the airlines were fouled up, and all sorts of weird things happened? And you notice how quickly they rushed out there and said, "Oh, it's not a terrorist attack. It's not a service denial attack. We just fouled up." And I don't know about you, but I'm still having trouble buying that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of these things are underlying terrorist attacks, but indeed, they won't own up and admit to it. It's, oh, just human error or this or that or the other. It's like the LAX outage that I
Yes.
spoke of. 3 days it was out. They still will not, to this day, talk about it again because it was a substation attack. It was a not a forewarning, but kind of a I'm having a mental block here, but a minor excursion, a test. If we do this, can we get away with it? And then, well, that worked. Now, how do we upscale that? Minor things can lead to bigger things if we don't deal in the reality of what that actually was.
Well, I think, and certainly following on that point, the World Trade Center was attacked before, and
Yep.
and the cats that were involved in that, it really didn't seem that anybody got that excited about it. But sadly, I think it was about 8 years later when 9/11 happened, and people found out that you can go after the same building twice.
Yeah, they thought they could topple the World Trade Center with a U-Haul bomb, but the place they misplaced where they put the U-Haul truck bomb, and it didn't fully explode to the degree they thought it would. They thought they could undermine the stability from below. And since that didn't work, they thought, okay, well, let's attack it from above. So, right, it can happen the same place twice, or it may never happen the same place twice ever. You don't know. But the point being, 9/11 was a big deal, a big ordeal. And terrorists, despite wanting to claim they're martyrs for God, do want to actually live. They find suckers to suicide themselves by plane into the Trade Center, but the plotters live. You notice that? They want to live. And since we went in full force into Afghanistan, they think, oh, well, wait a minute, we don't want to do anything that scale again and poke the eye of the beast and get that response because we'll be killed then, right? So a death by 1,000 cuts, right? You poke here, poke there, poke, 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 poke. The tiger might not strike full force because, again, despite all their rhetoric about, soldiers for Allah and willing to martyr themselves, no, they want to live too. they
Yeah,
want
I
us
think
to, they want us to die. They want to live.
and Joe, you may have missed it in the very recent news, but the three folks that they found that been under arrest for a while, who reportedly were the mastermind of 9/11, have just agreed to stay at be guests our house guests at Gitmo for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in that. I think the death penalty would have made more sense. Especially one of the concerns I have is when they hold these terrorists like this, it gives the other terrorists who are their buddies and their fans an incentive to create some type of a ransom thing where they say, oh, well, we've caught this U.S. senator wandering around the world and we'll trade him for the big mastermind and stuff like that. So
Right.
I'm not impressed with the fact that they made a settlement. And but that I don't know if you saw that, but it literally just came in today,
Yeah, I
announced
saw
by
it.
the Biden administration, and
And
there's just no justice.
does it surprise anyone? An administration that is weak on criminals in our own land is also weak on terrorists. An administration, Biden, who was VP during Obama, as I call him, and the Iran deal, sending money, supporting terrorists. Biden, who also lifted all the sanctions, put a couple on here and there to pretend he's tough, but he made Iran rich. What's going on in Israel now and in the Middle East would not have happened if not for Biden lifting 90% of all the sanctions. So they are awash in oil money again. They were almost dirt poor, bankrupt, couldn't fund the terrorism, but now they're awash in oil cash again, and they're able to fund these proxy terrorist groups. So a lot of this wouldn't be happening. So they're willing, in my mind, openly, my opinion, aiding and abetting the enemy, Iran, the biggest state sponsor of terrorism on the entire planet. So, of course, it's not a surprise they make a deal with terrorists.
Absolutely. Well, Joseph M. Lenard, it's been a great pleasure to visit with you again. As some of our audience know, I was the guest on your show, and we could do this for a whole hour or two. But what my producer tells me is that we keep it short, people are more likely to listen to the whole thing. But tell our audience how they can get some more information about you.
Yeah, well, first, now this may air soon, and hopefully it'll air some other time on a replay at some point. So the show with you on constitutionalist politics right now is penciled in for the last Wednesday of August 2024. So it will air then, and hopefully people will hear it when it airs, or if this airs again after that, they'll find the backdated episode. But to find me, you could see, if you see this on video, terrorstrikes.info at the top of my screen. That's the book related site. I also have the author site, josephmlenard.us. Again, it looks like Lenard. It's actually Polish. It's Lenard without an O, josephmlenard.us. And for those who care, I'm part Italian and German on my mother's side too, but majority Polish. Yeah, and please go ahead, make Polak jokes. I'm more than happy with them because, if we can't laugh at ourselves, we have no business laughing at others.
I
And
totally agree. I think that's too much. This is Dr. David D. Schein for Saving America. please subscribe on your favorite platform.